And we are live. It is episode number 3 of No Fate But What We Stream. I am Eddie Green, and I am being joined once again by
Gershom, Reese, Wetzel.
right there. Awesome. Dude, this is crazy. Like episode 3, man. This is like the revenge of the Sith for us.
Totally.
And from what I hear, that's actually the best of the prequel trilogy. So hopefully this is going to be the best of our 3 episodes.
It really is. And unfortunately, it still has a lot left to be desired.
Yes, from what I hear. Just so you guys know, Gershom, I can definitely talk more about this, but he has a podcast that is brand new. So we're going to plug it right here. I'll let him take the reins on that one.
Okay, so, well, as you guys probably know, May the 4th is Star Wars Day, officially. And we have a podcast called Falcon Crazy. I believe it's up on a number of platforms. I want to say iTunes, probably Spotify, like I said, a couple other places. So sorry, I don't know these by heart, but it is available. It will be streaming on August, or see, I'm in Terminator mode. It'll be streaming on August 29th, 1997. It'll be streaming on Star Wars Day, May the 4th. And we've got a Facebook page called Falcon Crazy, so check that out. And join us, because we'll be talking all things Star Wars, things we love, things we hate, things we wish could be better, different, very much what we do here, but Star Wars.
Exactly. And he was, awesome enough to send me like a preview, from what I understand, right? It was like a preview.
Yes.
Yeah. So you sent that to me and you were like, if you don't mind listening to it. And, I wanted to be upfront with you. I'm not a Star Wars guy, 100% not a Star Wars guy. But of course I wanted to, because, you're my friend and I wanted to support you. So took a listen to it and left a nice review. I wanted to kind of be, not in depth, because I don't know what I'm talking about. But I did want to leave something that would, if someone, took a peek at it, they would be like, oh, awesome, sweet. This guy in this podcast and these guys know what they're talking about. So, but yeah, guys, Falcon Crazy, May 4th, go check it out. I'll probably even actually update the description box for this episode. So once that happens, you just send me a link to wherever they can go and we'll put it there.
All right, we'll do. Thank you.
Awesome. And let's see here. Who do we got in the chat room? Of course, we got Dan, Alien Anal. What's going on, Dan? Oliver, welcome back, sir. Cyborgana, love having you here. And we got someone new, Justin Strom, I think is how you say his name. And I guess he's saying, because this is episode number 3, so this is our Rise of the Machines. So hopefully it's not a Rise of the Machines quality. Yeah, ouch. I agree. I'm new. Yay. Yes, you are new, Justin. Welcome. I hope you'll be joining us from here on out. So yeah, guys, this is episode number 3. Perfect pronunciation. Awesome. This is episode number 3. And when Gershom and I were kind of debating on what we wanted to talk about for this particular episode, we kind of just settled on starting these tribute episodes, which is something that I wanted to really do because I think they're fun. I think, it opens a lot of possibilities for discussion. We can even possibly list some of our favorites, like maybe a top 5 if we can think of them. I know I have a top 5, Arnold. Wanted to wear the shirt here. This is the Arnold Classic right there. That's a body I'll never have. But yeah, so we wanted to kick it off with the face of the franchise, and that's obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger. So this is the first tribute episode on No Fate But What We Stream. And obviously you guys are more than welcome to, in the chat room, talk amongst yourselves. Of course, every once in a while, we're going to pay attention to the chat room and comment on what's going on there. But I wanted to kick it off with, oh, hey, we got another new watcher, Marie Sperlich. What's going on, Marie? So yeah, I wanted to kick it off with talking about what was our first introduction to Arnold, and what kind of, as far back as we can remember, what was like that earliest memory? And you guys in the chat room as well, let us know your earliest memories of seeing Arnold, hearing about Arnold. I know, me personally, my introduction to Arnold was Batman and Robin. And you can call that kind of a bad introduction for sure. But at the same time, it's an introduction that you cannot forget. You know, it's like one of the most memorable introductions, I think, ever. Like, you'll never forget seeing a bald-headed blue Arnold for the rest of your life. You're never going to forget that. And Batman and Robin, I think I said this on the last episode or the episode prior to that, but Batman and Robin for a long time was my favorite movie of all time. And, you know, obviously I was naive to the quality and everything like that. Now it's a guilty pleasure. But at the time when I was introduced to Arnold, instantly that film became my favorite movie of all time. What about you, Gershom?
You know, it was Conan. I want to say I might have seen Conan the Barbarian as a kid in my dad's house. But I don't think I really understood what it was. Like, it was one of those things where the second time I saw it, I was older and I went, I know this movie. So it was probably Conan the Destroyer, actually, and then the Terminator. Those are my two. And it took me a long time to put two and two together as a child. I was 6 or 7, you know. It took me a while to put together that was the same guy. But in either case, totally an impressive, you know, persona, impressive physique. He really just had that presence, you know, mind, body, soul, the whole thing. So it was really something where I was like, it was a very vivid hook in my memory that I went, okay, this is somebody that when I see him again, there's going to be no doubt that that it's the same guy. I remember as a kid, other actors, I used to get those confused a little bit. The Empire Strikes Back. There was a while there as a kid where I had this moment where I went, wait a minute, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, those are two different guys. Like, there was something there where as a child there was awareness where I went, whoa, I'm following two different people here. You know, Arnold was one that it was like, no, we know him every time we see him. So, and real quick, everybody, disclaimer, this podcast being a tribute to Arnold, I bet you there's going to be some really good and possibly some really, more than likely, some really bad Arnold impersonations going on here. I'm just going to lay that out there. I ask you no forgiveness either way it goes.
Awesome. Oh, man. That's crazy. So, yeah, so your introduction was 1984, because that's when both of those films came out, 1984.
Okay. All right.
That's
I distinctly remember seeing Conan the Destroyer in the theater. We thought we were going to go see the Star Trek movie that was coming out at the time, and it turned out, you know, here comes the dun dun dun, you know, that score from Basil Polidoros. I'm probably butchering that name, but anyway, really iconic score. And I remember my aunt leaning over to my grandfather and going, "This isn't the Star Trek that I remember." And so we just that was the joke that kind of kicked off the entire movie experience for us on that one.
Nice, man. Yeah, no, I can definitely understand, because you have that kind of it's definitely a total 180 visually in terms of, you know, film, but also just Arnold. He has, you know, the long hair, right? He has long hair in Conan, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've actually never seen the Conan movies, believe it or not.
Oh.
They just come off as like movies that aren't going to appeal to me. I know I should probably give them a chance, and I'll probably get some hate for that in the comments, but yeah, I don't know. Just Conan never really was up my alley. But it is fascinating to me, that whole behind the scenes story of, you know, they had to halt production on the Terminator until Arnold finished Conan the Destroyer, because he was contractually obligated to make that film. And so Cameron was more than happy to, you know, allow that time to pass for him to complete the Conan the Destroyer. And then, of course, when he was done, chopped his hair, or assuming that was his actual hair. It might have been a wig. Right. But yeah, and then he started to work on the Terminator. And that's awesome, man. I'm so jealous. It really is a bad introduction, honestly, at the end of the day. Batman and Robin is a bad introduction. But, it just, I love those one-liners. I love the one-liners. And we'll get into the one-liners. I'm not going to start them now because, like you said, there's going to be really bad Arnold impressions this whole episode. So, but yeah, so head over to the chat room here just to see what some people are saying. We got Justin saying that Terminator, like you, man, was his introduction. Marie, she wasn't even a thought. Oh, Alien, he has to leave. Oh, no sound. Damn, dude. All right, well, hey, it was fun having you for the 5 seconds you were here. Yes, I hate Genesis, Cyborg. Yeah. Batman and Robin was my favorite movie, but I hate Genesis. But I will say Batman and Robin is better. Stay Hungry, and then Conan, and then the Terminator. Okay, Stay Hungry. I think he won his only Golden Globe, honestly, for that film. I think it was like a debut Golden Globe, if I'm not mistaken. And then we got Oliver. What's he saying over there?
Terminator, then Batman and Robin. Let's see. Then my brother. And we put on Hercules in New York, Twins, Jingle All the Way, and Kindergarten Cop, and the rest. And then we have we've got Woody chimed in with Total Recall. Then Terminator 1 was my first Arnold introduction. Woody, welcome to the chat. How's it going?
Good to have you guys. Good to have you. Awesome. I mean, that's the thing. Arnold has been around for so long that when you ask somebody, what was your introduction to him, you're going to get varying answers. So, so that's our introduction to him. And instantly, it doesn't matter if it's Batman and Robin, Conan the Destroyer, Stay Hungry. The guy had, it's undeniable. He had a presence on the screen where you were never going to forget him. Never going to forget him. And I find it hysterical that when he was coming up in to becoming, Arnold Schwarzenegger, there were so many naysayers along the way. I actually read bits and pieces of his book, The Total Recall. And, it's a fascinating journey that he took to get to where he was. And there were so many people saying that, dude, you're never going to be anything other than maybe the guy that plays Hercules, Conan, maybe. And look at it. I mean, look, I'm wearing a shirt. He became the freaking governor. I mean, the guy proved everybody wrong, and really? It's insane. So, Justin, I was real big into Commando in kindergarten. What the hell? Nice. Why were you watching Commando in kindergarten? I swear I had a sheltered life because also last episode, I think, remember we touched on some stuff of being introduced to the Terminator at a young age. I think you were introduced at 7, right?
Yeah.
Damn, dude. I definitely was sheltered. Definitely.
I was 7 and it was home video. So not the theater experience. But there's actually some local theaters around here that play it from time to time. So one of these days, oh yes, I will have the theatrical experience of the Terminator.
Yeah, right? It's like, oh, man. So, Gershom, I wanted to ask you this because the difference between you and I is you are a parent. I am not a parent. So what is your approach to, have you introduced your kids to Arnold yet or no?
Yes, and it was I think purely an accidental thing. I remember putting on the Terminator one night when I thought they were both asleep, and before I know it, I hear this kind of he might have punched the first punk out, and gutted him, and I hear this squeal off to the side. And I'm like, what are you doing up? My kids are both sitting there going, ugh. And I'm like, all right, okay, whoa, hang on. We need to have a talk about what movies are and what's fake. I really had to kind of almost do the Santa Claus isn't real, equivalent with Arnold Schwarzenegger and the special effects, the visual effects stuff right then and there. Okay, guys, let's talk about show business and movies and what's fake and what's real and what you can trust and what you can't. So my kids have actually grown up with a very very good awareness of, oh, daddy, that's fake, right? I mean, they'll see some things. Aliens, I think, still is beyond them, and that movie would totally freak them out and give them nightmares. So we haven't gone there yet, but some of the more actiony type stuff, their introduction to Arnold is I think pretty well rounded. They know him from some of the comedic stuff now, but they'll watch the Terminator and Terminator 2 without flinching until we get to like the T-1000 doing the stiletto index finger thing. But yeah, they know who he is, and they understand, hey, you know what, a lot of the stuff that he does on TV and movies, that's fake.
Okay. And they responded to him, like they are
yeah. Okay, so we're watching Carmen Sandiego, the new cartoon on Netflix, and one of the guys, one of the characters actually has a French accent. So he's always doing things like "La Femme Rouge, stop in the name of the law," that kind of thing. But my oldest son is always going, "Dad, he kind of sounds like the Terminator a little bit," in that it's not in a local Texan / American accent, So he's picking up on that, and it's something that keeps coming back to him. Every once in a while, they'll quote a line from the movie, something Arnold says. I made the mistake of having the soundtrack. I don't know if I told you this before, but I made the mistake of having the Brad Fidel soundtrack playing in my car, and the dash does the track name. And one of the track names is literally the line "fuck you, asshole." So it's just cycling through the soundtrack. I don't think anything of it. And all of a sudden, one of my kids from the back seat goes, "Hey, Dad, it says 'fuck you, asshole.'"
Oh my God.
Yes, it does. It does. You remember that moment from the movie? And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, let's talk about inappropriate and appropriate. It's okay that you see that word. You know what it means, but let's not say it out loud, especially in mixed company." So yeah, that's my kids. That's my household. It's a lot of, but you know what? I was on a field trip with my youngest today, and absolutely no outbursts of any sort like that in mixed company. It was awesome. I was like really impressed. My kid, when it's just the three of them, they'll be like, "Hey, Dad, you're," and just they'll rattle off some line from the movie, and I'm just like, "Yes, it's something I'm into. I understand. You know what that means. Please, not anywhere else." But today, absolutely nothing. I didn't have to flag him for anything. I didn't have to be like, "Hey, no," because there was other kids around and other parents around, and so I was really actually very impressed at his understanding of what appropriate and inappropriate is in the school setting. So that was nice.
Yeah, man, you got some funny kids, because I saw you shared that thing on Facebook like a couple years ago. Like they did that thing with the cars passing by.
Yes. Yeah. That was one of their fun little improvised games, and I just kind of to watch them and try and figure out what they were doing. Every time the car passed by, they'd scream really loud, and I'm going, "Is that it?" Like I'm watching, and I'm like, "There's nothing for a long time," and here comes a truck, whee! And then just whee! And screaming, and I'm like, that's the rules of the game. Okay. Yeah, really creative kids, really just active imaginations and all that.
Man, I'll tell you, I don't know. It's like, obviously I don't know when I'm going to have kids, if I have kids, but it's when they're of the right age, and I'll determine what that is. I feel like I'm going to be, just based off of how I am as a person, I feel like when that time comes, it's going to be kind of like the way you approached it, of like, it's a big deal. Like, it's, introducing them to something that meant something to you. So you hope that it will mean something to them. And, I'm definitely going to be like, all right, so this is Arnold. Unfortunately, he's not around anymore, because it probably will be around that time, honestly, if I'm being real with you guys, which I don't even want to think about that. But anyways, it'll be like, yeah, he's not here anymore. But this guy, when he was around in his prime, he was the biggest. There was nobody else bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger. And, I'm going to have to figure out, how do I introduce them to Arnold Schwarzenegger? Is it the Terminator? Is that the film that I, put on the screen and say, all right, remember, this is fake, sort of like how you did it with the whole, comparing it to Santa Claus. But, but I kind of want them to, I would want them to like appreciate it the way I appreciate it. And I know if I introduce them at a young age, they're just going to be like, like watching it like that. They're really not going to be able to comprehend it the way I want them to. So maybe something like Batman and Robin, or maybe Kindergarten Cop. Like maybe
Last Action Hero.
What is it?
Last Action Hero might be a good way to go.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
It's still that same kind of actiony stuff like you have in Terminator 2, but he's also kind of taking jabs at it a little bit, so it's a little more lighthearted,
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it is. Okay, Cybergana. I was glancing at the chat room. I was like, what the heck is she talking about? Less of that, Eddie. Arnie will outlive us all. Look, I don't want the guy to die ever. But seriously, I've come to the realization that, a lot of the people that I really love, look up to, admire in the film and entertainment industry, they're getting up there,
Seriously, yeah.
It's scary, man. It's really scary. I mean, Arnold's going to be, I think, 72 this year. And that's crazy. I mean, he looks great. Don't get me wrong. He looks great. And I'm sure he's going to kick ass in Dark Fate, but it's scary. I mean, I don't know. We don't know. You never know. But Marie says, I love that one, Last Action Hero. Yeah, it's Last Action Hero is a good one, because I think the way that it presents the violence, you know what I mean? It's because for the longest time, I never understood that movie. And I think it was a problem for a lot of people. They never understood what that movie was supposed to be. So you could say it was ahead of its time, but I always remember never understanding the scene where he blows up the ice cream truck and the guy gets killed by having an ice cream cone go in the back of his head. I never understood what that was.
Yeah.
I don't know if I comprehended that it was an ice cream cone going into the guy's head and killing him, or I was so confused watching that scene. I just remember my first introduction to Last Action Hero. I was like, I don't like this movie. This movie what is going on here? But since then I've come to appreciate the comedy and, the fact that movie was like a passion project for Arnold. He really wanted to, cause this was the follow-up to T2. He needed to follow T2 up with something big. And he thought that Last Action Hero was going to be it, and unfortunately, it wasn't. But yeah,
it's kind of a cult favorite now. I think that movie is actually aged really well, and you're right. When it first came out, because it was a reteaming of Arnold and director John McTiernan, I believe, who did the Die Hard movies and the first Predator film. So
yes.
I think you put those two names out there, and everybody goes, "Oh man, it's going to be a good one, like Predator, like Die Hard, right?" And then it's actually an action comedy, which was kind of a new genre at the time. I think that might have been one of the first, really, to get into that. I mean, the Lethal Weapon movies were kind of moving that way a little bit, but Last Action Hero really took it to new heights. I mean, because you had an animated cat, you had a T-1000 cameo, you had all these different nods to different movies, right? The guy, the first two beat cops, when he's outside the door to his favorite cousin Frank's house, right? And the one guy's up in the tree and he's like 3 days to retirement or whatever it was. I mean, they really kind of pulled out all the stops on action and comedy and cultural awareness, nods to different icons of the genre. So I don't think we as an audience were really ready for that movie. He follows up, I think, two years later with True Lies, and we were much more ready for that, I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, totally. And because I think another thing that killed Last Action Hero was, I believe, let me know in the chat room if I'm wrong here, but I believe that movie opened the same weekend as Jurassic Park.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I mean, you have two different versions of movies being way ahead of their time, and I think people gravitated more towards the holy hell, these are like actual dinosaurs on screen, versus like the kind of subtleness that is Last Action Hero with the way that the story was trying to present itself. Yeah, I think it was there was a lot of reasons why Last Action Hero didn't work, but like everyone is saying in the chat room, like Cyborgana says, is it is a treasure and it's a wonderful time capsule. I mean, it just that honestly is one of the last movies, because I wanted to talk about this with you, Gershom. I wanted to see what you feel like, because personally, I feel like after Batman and Robin, Arnold's prime was over. Like Arnold as the icon Arnold. Now, let's not misconstrue that with me saying that he's not an icon, because he is. But
right.
There was a time when he was like at the top of his game. And I feel like after Batman and Robin, every film after that was literally just a kind of downward spiral. Now, you could say Batman and Robin, yes, it is a downward spiral, but that was a big deal when that movie was announced. Like, holy crap, that like this is the fourth Batman movie, because I personally like Batman Forever. Right. And I can only imagine hearing, guess who they got to play Mr. Freeze? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Because this is his second antagonistic role after the Terminator. Like, this is his follow-up villain role. So there was a lot of hype around that film. Didn't deliver, but there was a lot of hype. And I just feel like after that, it was just a downward spiral. And then we'll get into it as well. But like, what do you think about, like, what is your prime era of Arnold for you?
Prime era, I'm gonna go. It's really the 80s for me and early 90s. I think okay. Batman and Robin was 1997.
Yes,
and so before that, you've got we've mentioned the Conan movies, Terminator, Red Sonja, Commando, Raw Deal, Predator. Predator was huge. The Running Man, Red Heat, Twins. I'm on Wikipedia. Total Recall. Sorry, I'm not. No, I don't know all of these in order. Kindergarten Cop, T2, The Last Action Hero, True Lies, and then you've got Junior, Eraser, Jingle All the Way, and Batman and Robin. That caps off the 99 or the 97 line that you're talking about. After that, in coming back in 99, he's got End of Days, The Sixth Day, Collateral Damage, Terminator 3, Around the World in 80 Days.
Yeah. He was that's like a real quick cameo. That's just like a 2-second thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
At the Expendables trilogy, Escape Plan was hilariously perfect. Sabotage, Maggie, Terminator Genesis, Aftermath, Killing Gunther, Journey to China as Captain Hook. That supposedly last year, and then Terminator Dark Fate coming out later on this year. Yeah, there's a lot of movies after 97, after Batman and Robin, and I don't think any of them were nearly as big as anything before that, including Batman and Robin.
Yeah, and it's when I think of Arnold, I genuinely think of like um, his post or sorry, his pre-governorship and then his post-governorship.
Mhm.
And I think that's like a real interesting aspect of his career. Not many people have that kind of trajectory where he started off as a bodybuilder and then he progressed to a full-blown movie star, the biggest action hero and the biggest name on the planet. Then he became the governor, and
Mhm.
then he returned to film. So I want to save the return to film because I think it's pretty fascinating. But yeah, it's just after Batman and Robin, and I see like Cyborgana, said that End of Days is a great movie. I mean, it's it gave us arguably my favorite Arnold one liner, which is "You're a fucking choir boy." Like that one liner is just incredible. So for that, I'm gonna give End of Days a pass. But seriously, the Sixth Day, Collateral Damage, T3, come on, T3, no, And then of course he has those two films that he did Around the World in 80 Days, and then he did another cameo in The Rundown with The Rock.
Oh yes, that's right. That's right. Right at the beginning of the movie in the club.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't even count those, but it's just really. I say Batman and Robin, but honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, for me, it's 96. 96 is the capper because 96 is an incredible year for Arnold. He has Eraser, he has Jingle All the Way, and he has T2 3D Battle Across Time open at Universal Studios in Florida. And I mean, arguably that's his biggest year of all time because I love Eraser. I love Jingle All the Way, and I love T2 3D. So it's just weird that after Batman and Robin, I don't know if it was just he got to that point where he didn't look as good as he did. I mean, he looked great in, T3 and everything, but he definitely was getting older and you could tell that. And I feel like 96 was that capper year because man, in Eraser, he's spot on in Eraser. So yeah, like, I don't know how you feel about that, but like, it's just, 97 is like the passing year, 97 Batman and Robin. And then that's it. And then Arnold just kind of diminished. And it's sort of the same way now where, if an Arnold film comes out, granted, if it's not Terminator, but if an Arnold film comes out, you could say people don't care anymore. Like, and when I say people, I mean general audiences. You, I, everybody in the chat room probably cares, but
yeah,
not to the point that we did in the past. It's just, it's scary. And something that really irks me that they don't do anymore for the most part on the posters with Arnold, they don't do just the Schwarzenegger anymore. It's all Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it irks me. Like, does that irk you too? Like the fact that they don't do the Schwarzenegger at the top?
A little bit. I think that might be the marketing department being maybe a little bit aware of, hey, you know what? There's younger audiences out there that don't know the name. And so I mean, yeah, it's a little bit irksome, but again, it's like every franchise that I've ever grown up on right now is kind of hitting that pass the torch mode, and it's a lot of them so far have been really uneasy, uneven. They've not been smooth transitions. The Star Wars thing. Well, you know what? We'll talk about that on Falcon Crazy. Don't get me started here. But you see so many things that are getting passed on. They're rebooting, reinventing, remaking movies, and a lot of times you're sitting there going, why would you mess with the perfection of what it was in the 80s? And then you hear them do things like, well, there's younger audiences out there that don't know those original. I'm like, well, then make a true sequel and give them every reason to go back and discover the thing that was magic for us. you know. But the producers and stuff like that, they tend to think that a hard reboot is usually the best way to do it, you know. And there's been a handful of them that I'm like, okay, that was good. I agree with that. Don't hate me, but the original Total Recall, as much as it was iconic, and I think, who was it? Woody, did you say, or Cyberdana? You said it gave us, no, Woody gave us Arnold noise. Yes, it did. As much as that movie was cutting edge and iconic for its time, I have to say it hasn't aged well. It was one of those movies that I saw on Blu-ray after many years of not seeing it. I saw it on Blu-ray, and I was so excited. I was like, yes, Total Recall. All right, cool. Pop it in. I've got the flat panel TV, and here we go. And what the hell happened to this movie? Like, it was every beat. It was everything that I remember, but I'm watching it and I'm going, something about this feels weird to me. And I think what it was that I'd reached a point where I was mentally older than the mentality of the film, you know? So, and it's probably, I imagine this might put me in hot water with everybody in the chat room, but it was one of those things where when the remake came out with Colin Farrell, I was much more open to that movie than I think the general audience was. And much more open to it than I think the Arnold Schwarzenegger fans were. It felt like a much more everyman movie, and to me, it felt like a movie that's going to age about the same way as the original Blade Runner. Whereas the original Total Recall, to me, has aged the same as what you would look back and see original Star Trek. The original Star Trek TV show, all right, was absolutely mind-blowingly cutting edge for its time. And I remember watching that as a kid on TV, catching reruns in the early 80s with my dad, and going, yeah, and oh, Dad, is Star Trek on? And we'd rush and we'd watch it. And then, Star Trek The Next Generation comes out and these newer movies come out. And then you go back and you compare and you're like, huh, what happened to my Star Trek? So to me, the original Total Recall, as good as it is, and it's still got the shock value, God bless it, it still has the shock value, consider that a divorce, right? And all this stuff. But that movie in particular has been a hard one for me to watch again lately, because it really does seem to have kind of hit. It seems to have kind of hit its stride for me.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, Total Recall is not one of my favorite Arnold movies. I just want to comment on Woody's thing, Where's the Love for True Lies? We're actually going to just kind of quickly name some of our favorite Arnold movies, like maybe a top 5, but we're not going to list it, but we'll just, throw out some titles that we really love. And I can guarantee True Lies is in my top 5 Arnold films. It's, all 3 of the collaborations between Cameron and Arnold, taking out T2 3D, but the feature length films, they're in my top 5. So 3 spots are Terminator, Terminator 2, and True Lies. It's just, it's that True Lies was that film that I kind of waited a little bit. Like, I didn't check it out as early on as I probably should have. Being an Arnold fan, it was one of those movies that didn't look like it was going to appeal to me, sort of the same way as Conan, which, probably proves my point that I should jump on the Conan movies. But I eventually got around to True Lies, and man, talk about a film that is, it's, for some reason, and when we do our James Cameron tribute episode, we'll talk more about that, but it's the weirdest James Cameron movie out of his entire filmography, because I wouldn't have guessed that James Cameron directed it had I not known. It doesn't really have that flavor of James Cameron that you expect when you go into a James Cameron film. Yes, it's big, it's all this stuff, but it's such a weird 180 from what we're used to with James Cameron. It always throws me, and I always find myself forgetting about it when I'm listing James Cameron films. It's always like, oh shit, True Lies. I totally forgot about True Lies. But yeah, True Lies is incredible. Arnold is phenomenal in that film. And Jamie Lee Curtis, holy crap, Jamie Lee Curtis, beautiful, but she's also, like, that's one of my favorite Jamie Lee Curtis performances, because it does have that attribute of James Cameron and the strong female characters, because she, by the end of that film, I mean, she's doing stuff that she definitely wouldn't have thought she would be doing at the beginning of the film. So that movie is so incredible. And I heard that there was some rumor going around of like a TV show or something like that. And whatever, but that's definitely my top 5 favorite Arnold movies. So Woody, there's the love for True Lies. Absolutely. 100%. I love True Lies. Totally. And I hope this is the year we get it on fucking Blu-ray, because I'm sick of this shit. Like, James Cameron, if you're watching, you're not, but someone share this to him. Get on it. I know that they're working on The Abyss finally, but shit, where the hell is True Lies? Why do we not have a True Lies Blu-ray? This is bugging the hell out of me.
All I can do is say here. Yes, absolutely. True Lies definitely needs to hit the Blu-ray circuit for us, or at least let's get Blu-ray. Go to 4K.
Yeah, absolutely. But make sure there's a Blu-ray in there, because I don't have 4K yet.
There you go. Perfect. That movie was almost, I think, it was almost James Cameron's last action hero, really, because it did skate that line of having the hard action, but also some really witty dialogue. The Last Action Hero went to completely, all right, no, this is an actual comic beat right here. True Lies, it was more the sarcastic, Tom Arnold, right? What was the line? He says, what about the time you blew a 6-month operation because you were getting a blow? Hey, let's just pick Franklin because it's a lot quicker. I mean, he's got that really kind of great little counterpart to Arnold's straight man in that film. Helen is having an affair. Welcome to the club party. I come home, the place is completely empty. She even took the ice cube trays out of the freezer. What kind of a sick bitch takes the ice cube trays out of the freezer? I'm dying. I'm falling out laughing. But at the same time, I'm going, this is actually really it doesn't cross into that realm of when the governor gets here, call me. Here's a couple of acres. That kind of thing. Still has that serious tone to it. But yeah, I think that was of all James Cameron's filmography, True Lies was probably, like you're saying, the real surprise one in the bunch.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of going through here because I want to make sure that I get the correct quote here, because it's, for some reason, it just sticks out to me. It's Bill Paxton's character in True Lies. Obviously, just an incredible over-the-top performance that is incredible. Oh man, why can I not? Hold on, I want to find it. Oh damn, I'm gonna butcher it if I don't, and I don't want to butcher it because it's just one of those like incredible kind of lines. Where is it? This is pissing me off. Anyways, you guys will know what I'm talking about when he's in the car with Arnold's character. And he's just going off. Like, this is a movie that is really walking a line where you feel like today this movie it would still be made, but man, some of these lines would probably be reworked, because Bill Paxton says something to the extent of describing Jamie Lee Curtis's character to Arnold. He's like, she has an ass like a 12-year-old boy or something like that. Right. And it's just like, it is the most, I cringe saying that. But at the same time, when he says it, because he has the mustache, he's sitting in the car, he's just, jamming out with Arnold. And the whole idea of that scene, Bill Paxton is talking to Arnold's character about Arnold's wife. It's so funny, but it's like one of those cringy moments. It's like, I don't feel good that I'm laughing about this, but man, that is a fucked up line. And Yeah, just True Lies is incredible. Seriously, True Lies is incredible. And something that Cyborgana said that I definitely 100% agree with. She said that it doesn't really feel like a James Cameron epic. It feels more like a regular 90s movie.
Yeah.
And it definitely does. It definitely does. It doesn't have that James Cameron big, gigantic, it definitely feels more safe. And I mean, he came off a T2 with it. So he probably wanted to do something that was a little more scaled back. And then, of course, a couple of years later, he did Titanic. So, I mean, you really can't argue with that. But yeah, it's definitely a different James Cameron film for when we talk about James Cameron. But like, what is some of your, if you had to come up with a top 5, not listing them, but just putting them in a bunch, what are some of your favorite Arnold movies?
Well, I think we've already hit the big ones. With the Terminator, True Lies. I think Predator is definitely there. That movie is insanely quotable. And the great part about it is it isn't just Arnold who gets the quotable lines in that movie. It's the entire cast. There's something out there waiting for us, and it ain't no man. I mean, everybody's got something to say, and it's just a memorable line. All the performances are solid, and the twist of the Predator itself is just it's beautiful. I remember being in, I was in 4th grade, I think, when that movie came out. Yeah, 4th grade going into 5th. And I remember hearing some kid who got to see it, early on, try to describe it. And he was like, yeah, it's this action movie. And then and he talks about all the different, the fights and all the stuff. And he's like, and then at the end, there's this monster. It was funny listening to him explain it, because he didn't put together that monster was the invisible thing that was killing everybody the entire time. It was like, I'm going, and listening to him, I'm sitting here just going, I don't know. I'm not really sure what I just heard.
Yeah, you're not selling me on this movie.
Yeah. But then my dad comes in, and probably a week later is like, guys, we're gonna get this movie. We're gonna rent this movie. And I'm like, okay, cool. He kind of prepped us for it a little bit. It's like, if you gotta look away, you look away. But I think it came out right the same year as RoboCop. So, and I want to say we saw RoboCop first. So, with brains blowing out the back and all the different things that went on in RoboCop, Predator was actually kind of a walk in the park for us. To stomach the gore and the violence and all that kind of stuff. But man, it's such a beautiful film from start to finish. I do, from the second half of his career, we'll just call it the post-politics era. The Expendables trilogy, Escape Plan was fun. I honestly haven't seen Maggie or Killing Gunther, and I'm curious about those two. I did like The Last Stand also. He plays a sheriff in that film, and so that was actually pretty cool too.
Yeah, no, it's so really quickly before I comment, just everybody in the chat room, kind of put your top 5 there. So we have Cyborgana with the Terminator, Commando, Predator, Running Man, and Total Recall. So Total Recall aside, all 80s films. So definitely, I mean, I think Cyborgana shares your, the 80s being like, that is Arnold's decade. Like the 80s is definitely Arnold's decade. So to kind of transition to post-Governor, it's that thing of like, I just feel like a lot of people are sick of Arnold. Honestly, I think it's this kind of, okay, we need something new. We had 2 decades of this guy, so now let's move on, kind of deal. I'm not saying I want to move on, because I don't. I love Arnold, but really, when I go through every film, yeah, some of them are fun. Some of them are fun. Expendables 2 is the best out of the Expendables. You have The Last Stand. I agree. That's a fun movie. Great one-liners in there. How are you feeling, Sheriff? Old. Like good stuff like that. Fun stuff. But again, it's just this thing of like, man, I know I'm not watching Prime Arnold. I know I'm watching a guy who maybe doesn't have that real drive that he had at the beginning and that I could see on screen. Maybe that's the reason. And I'm not saying that he's not passionate, but you can definitely tell if you watch at the beginning of his career, just in the way he like stands and whatnot, the guy had a drive because he was trying to prove something. He doesn't have to prove anything anymore. So he's a little more relaxed. And it comes across, especially in the Expendables movies. Those movies are nothing but, fan service to every single one of those actors. So, those are just paycheck movies, really, at the end of the day. I got to tell you, though, and I saw Marie, she commented a little while back, out of all of his films that he's released after his governorship, his best is Killing Gunther. Hands down, Killing Gunther. And let me know in the chat room what you guys think about that movie. But Gershom, I got to tell you, he's only in this movie for like 10, 15 minutes. And it's the best 10, 15 minutes of his post-governorship, because the whole film is the whole film is incredibly funny. You have to be, it's from Taron Killam. So, if you liked him on SNL, you're going to like this movie. And if you didn't like him on SNL, you're probably not going to like it because he wrote and directed it. So, but it's just this really funny kind of mockumentary style thing of them looking for this guy named Gunther, who's, the greatest assassin of all time. And it's obviously Arnold. And it's just the funniest thing because he's so good, right? The character of Gunther is so good that when they see him, they don't know they're seeing him. So like what I mean by that probably sounded confusing. There's like a scene where they're like off in the distance, there's a character running, and we as the audience know it's Gunther, but it's a totally different like actor. It's like a scrawny Asian guy, for example. And like, that's his disguise. That's Gunther's disguise. And it's just like, because we know what Arnold looks like. He's this big guy. So it's this funny thing of like, how is this guy that good that he's pulling off these kinds of disguises? And it's just, that movie is insane. No, Cybergana, that film is awful. No, it's not awful. I swear to you. I am like in such a minority with Killing Gunther for some reason, but check it out. Seriously, Gershom, check that movie out and tell me what you think about it, because I think it's honestly his best post-governor film.
Okay. All right. I have to give that a look. I really did like him in Escape Plan with Sylvester Stallone. That movie was it was fun. It had that kind of it was almost like a reverse heist kind of thing. I love heist movies, like Ocean's 11 and that kind of deal. So this movie kind of reverses that model where they're trapped someplace and they have to get out. And it was really kind of, I think, in some ways, a return to classic 80s Arnold. Because it really did seem like he was holding a holding the character differently than he does in other movies. Like you said, there's some of them where you can kind of almost tell he was like, yeah, let's just get this the fuck over with, and maybe that's it. And I get that. I get that as people. That's just us. That's humanity, right? The things that we do that we're passionate about, you can tell, and the things where we're like, can I just do this so we can get me the money and I can go home? And so it translates into the film. There's something about it. It's like the film just does let us see into the soul of whoever's in front of the camera. And if they're really into it, you can tell. And if they're not, you can tell. And so for me, Escape Plan really seemed like it was a film that he was into, and it might have been one where the director was like, no, do it this way. I think that's one of the things that you find with actors too. It's like maybe the director was hesitant to tell them, I want this line this way, and this movie felt a little more precise. It felt a little more massaged, like you have with the early Arnold movies, where it was very crisp and very, very tightly knit work. Also, Collateral Damage was a very surprising movie. Oh gosh, allow myself to introduce myself. It was
Surprisingly surprising.
good and very surprising movie. It was, if I remember correctly, supposed to come out in 2001, and it was delayed because it was too close to 9/11.
Yeah, I remember that.
So they pushed it back a year, or two. It came out in 2002, so they pushed it back till 2002, and it was, like I said, the trailers, I think, kind of was like, oh, here goes. This is Arnold. This is Arnold in this setting. This is Arnold in this setting. This is Arnold. I think that's what you get. You get that with even you get that with Harrison Ford. You get that with Sylvester Stallone. You get that with a lot of these great action movie heroes from the 80s and early 90s. It's like, oh, here he is, but now he's on a bus. Here he is, but now he's on a boat. Here he is, but now he's in outer space. And so you stop seeing the actor as playing a character, and you're like, oh, it's just the actor standing in front of a blue screen, and then they're going to put this behind him. Here's Arnold goes to Hallmark. Put down the slide. Now you're in the Arctic, so look like you're freezing. I think that's what ends up happening with a lot of movies. It's not an intentional thing. It's a very unfortunate thing, because you've got all these different actors who are very great talents. They're very good at what they do. And something possibly about the movie making industry itself almost cheapens the talent that they bring to the screen.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there for sure. I'm reading the chat room here. So apparently, because Escape Plan escaped me, I haven't seen that yet. So maybe I have to get on it, because it seems like everybody's agreeing. But and then of course I know there was that direct. Did you catch the sequel to Escape Plan? Hades, I think it's called.
No, I saw that there was an Escape Plan 2. I think it's Stallone and Dave Bautista from Guardians of the Galaxy. And Arnold, I believe, is absent from that film. Yes, Arnold is missed.
Yeah, he's not in it.
He's not in the sequel. So no, I actually didn't catch the second film.
So maybe it's like, is it safe to say that it's really, for that film, it's sort of like the draw of Arnold? Because if Arnold was in the sequel, you would have seen it already.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and Stallone was great. Jim Caviezel's in that film. He was top notch as always. But Arnold and Stallone's chemistry in that film was really good. They played off of each other just fantastically.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that brings up another topic, because we're really not going to do it, because it wouldn't make sense for this kind of show, but to do a tribute to Sly. But it is that funny thing of like, there's really you can be a fan of both, but it's really, at the end of the day, you're going to side with one or the other. And I'm obviously Team Arnold, and because I've never been like a Stallone guy. Like, Stallone is good, but he doesn't have that, and it might just be the Austrian accent on it. Like, at the end of the day, that might be the reason why I love Arnold more. I prefer the get to the chopper versus the yo Adrian, yo Adrian. It's just that doesn't jive with me the same way. It's fascinating, the chemistry that they shared. As Sabrgana says there, it's this kind of rivalry. I remember seeing a clip of Stallone on the Tonight Show, and he was saying something, for the longest time they hated each other, and I don't know if that was just like a fun hate or like a genuine hate. Right. But he was like, I would do Rambo and he would do Commando. It's like, yeah, I wish I was around. Seriously, I keep saying this. I wish I was around in the 80s so that I could have, seen the Terminator in the theaters. I could have seen this back and forth going on between Arnold and Stallone. But I'm definitely Team Arnold. But I'll check out Escape Plan, because you guys have sold me on it in the chat room there. But you know, another thing with his post governorship is he's kind of geared more towards trying to do dramatic work. And I've seen both of his so-called dramatic turns in Maggie and Aftermath. And I got to tell you, it's hard to watch because Arnold is not, he's not going to be, a Christian Bale. He's not going to be a Leonardo DiCaprio. He's not going to be, but he wants to be. You can tell what he's trying to do. And it's just really hard to watch him try to actually play a normal human and show human emotions, because that's something that really kind of weighed Arnold down a little bit when it came to probably roles that he was offered. It was always, does it have a lot of emoting going on? Because if it does, let's not give it to Arnold, because this guy is, at the end of the day, a one, maybe two trick pony. Do you agree with that?
I would say it this way. I'd say he was probably typecast. I mean, everything that he does is larger than life. All of his earlier stuff, it's what is it? Hercules in New York, so he's playing the son of a god in New York. Stay Hungry, Pumping Iron, it's about the bodybuilding. The Terminator, he's this larger than life, cyborg assassin. Everything that he's doing is bigger than the average guy. And this is another one of those reasons I have to go back, sorry, to digress on the Total Recall thing. It's like he's such a visually iconic person in his stature, in his presence. It's like, wait a minute, you wiped his memory, you dumped him on Earth. There wasn't anybody on Earth who was going like, hey, wait a minute, aren't you the guy from Mars? There was nobody who walked up to him and said, excuse me, Hauser? You look just like Carl Hauser, or what, I mean, he's larger than life. Okay. Bill Burr, the comedian, has a segment on Arnold, and he says, at one point he goes, the guy's been in the zone for 4 decades. How many lifetimes would it take for you to achieve what this man's done? And I'm sitting there laughing because I'm like, yes, that is exactly who this guy is. He's been in the zone for 4 decades. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go to a country that, and I'm borrowing from Bill Burr here. He says, I'm going to a country where it's not my native language. I'm going to compete. I'm going to rise to the top there. Then I'm going to be an ultra movie icon. Then I'm going to marry into their royalty and basically become a leader of this country in some form or fashion. I mean, who can tell this guy no, right? Everything he does is on the scale of gods among men. And so what you're to your point, when somebody says, hey, we want you to play, a very humble, very sensitive everyman. Can you do that? I mean, I almost think that he would do it so well that it would be like, that is the iconic everyman, and basically defeat the purpose of being the everyman that every man can relate to. I mean, he would do it so awesomely that we'd be like, shit, I will never be that guy. That is so perfectly me that it couldn't possibly be me. Right. So, I mean, yeah, I think maybe he'd fallen into that thing of typecasting to the point that it's really just kind of an unrecoverable thing. Hey, do the sensitive thing, give us some emotion, give us some real feeling and heart. And it's almost really, how did what is it? Kill Bill. How did Bill say it? He said, Clark Kent is Superman's take on us. Right? This is Superman's idea, Superman's parody of what the average guy is. Meek, mild mannered, with the glasses and all. I think watching Arnold do an emotive character like that is almost the same idea. It's like, why are we making Superman play Clark Kent all the time? What is this?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. It's like, but it's this weird thing, because reading some of the chat room, it's, I'm not saying that Arnold can't be a good dramatic actor, but I am saying that he, well, he has a couple disadvantages right out of the gate. He has an accent, and I'm not saying that.
Right. That's come a long way. He was dubbed in Hercules in New York.
Yeah. No, and I'm not saying that if you have an accent, you can't be a good act. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But he has an incredibly distinct accent that, unfortunately, because the way he wanted his career to go, when I hear that accent, I hear all those characters that he played, and they were all, you know, larger than life action heroes. They were Dutch. They were Matrix. They were, you know, John Kimball, I think is his name in Kindergarten Cop. You know, that's a disadvantage. His size. He was the biggest bodybuilder in the world. This is what he looked like. You know, he didn't look like me. He didn't have this. He didn't have, you know, your size. You know, you seem like you have a little more meat on me, or on your shoulders there, than I do. You know, he didn't have that going for him. He was this guy that was supersized. So, you know, it's weird to think, like, truly think about this. What would Arnold be doing right now if he wasn't a bodybuilder, actor, and a governor? Because you know, he was like, that's what he was made for. Like, that's the way his life was going to go. I cannot imagine him as like a garbage like a garbage driver. You know what I mean? Like a guy that picks up trash, or like throwing pizzas up in the air, making pizzas for a living. That's not.
Is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm in IT.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? So when I watch a movie where he's supposedly this guy, like a sheriff, he's like this normal guy. Like in Aftermath, he plays, I think, like a construction worker, which, you know, that's okay. That's borderline okay. But still, I don't buy it. I don't buy it because, again, the way Arnold's career was trajected, it's like, I have such a hard time separating those two, that when I watch it, I just know I'm watching Arnold, and I'm never going to get lost to the point where if I watch something like Leonardo DiCaprio, I forget I'm watching Leonardo DiCaprio and I'm watching that character that he created.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen with Arnold. I just know I'm watching Arnold attempt to do this character, and it doesn't work.
Okay. So if I understand you right, basically you're going, all right, I watch him in Aftermath, and I'm expecting at some point for him to go, actually, my name is Harry Tasker, not Harry Rehnquist. This is just my cover. And then it takes off in a completely different direction where he's this larger than life thing instead of an average Joe.
Yeah, no. And that's why I loved True Lies, because it kind of did what you just said there. It presented this, wait, hold on. This guy, no, there's something off about this, because he wouldn't be doing this. You know, he can definitely achieve more in his life. So I love that they played that angle in True Lies. You know, he's this normal average guy, but wait, hold on, he's actually a super, like, secret spy going on. That was a brilliant move, and that's a, you know, obviously you can't do that for every film because that would just get old, but something like that, yes, that works for me. Because, you know, it kind of gives you that best of both worlds. So maybe, you know, in True Lies, they should have, you know, attempted more of a dramatic turn from Arnold, because I would have actually been more on board with it, versus him playing a construction worker whose family dies in a plane crash. And the rest of the movie is literally him just moping around trying to figure out, should I kill the guy, like the air traffic controller guy that caused it, or should I not? It's just, you know, and plus that movie is really boring, by the way. It's like a really boring movie. So you have a really bad choice of casting, plus you have a really bad script, and it does this the whole time. And same with Maggie. You know, Maggie was a cool concept. You know, kind of doing like this examination of, if this were to happen, how does it affect one, you know, little piece of the giant puzzle, which is this father-daughter relationship. Awesome idea. Again, terrible execution. and again, very boring. So I wouldn't recommend those movies, but if you want to try to see what I'm talking about with how Arnold has a real tough time separating his past career with what he wants to do, then check him out. But really, at the end of the day, it's just I'm never going to watch him again. So I'm going to keep, falling back on Eraser. I'm going to keep falling back on all those movies. It's weird because you would think I would have a hard time with stuff like Jingle All the Way and stuff like that. But they're comedies, it's funny to see this guy who is selling, I think he sells mattresses or something in Jingle All the Way. It's like, what? Why is he selling mattresses? Like it doesn't make sense, but it's a comedy, it's this over the top thing. That's okay. Yeah, man, Jingle All the Way, just to kind of segue into Jingle All the Way. God, I love that movie so much. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time.
Nice. I will say one of the movies that has grown on me and is probably The Sixth Day. It was a movie that I went, okay, so this is kind of it felt adjacent to Demolition Man in some respects. And I don't know, maybe it was because it's a similar genre, but there was something about that movie that I kept going, no, I don't like this movie. I don't know that I want to, but over time it's been like, oh, it's on. Oh yeah, heck yeah. And I think again, because it does get us a little bit into that whole thing of here's an average guy, it's a more, I think that might be it. It's a more believable average guy than the Quaid Hauser thing for me, that he's got a family, he's got a career, he's doing cutting edge technology stuff, and there's an oops, and now there's two of them, so it takes that average guy and then goes into something that's extraordinary or remarkable. Whereas again, like, with Maggie or Aftermath, and I haven't seen those two, but it sounds like what you're saying is they don't really go anywhere beyond this is just an average guy.
Yeah, no, they just present him as like an average guy the whole film, and if anything happens that's like kind of extraordinary, it's the situations. So you have like a zombie apocalypse, or you have this insane thing, which that's why I checked out Aftermath, because I was like, man, and the fact that it's supposedly based on a true story, I don't know how factual the film plays it out, but it's based on a true story of this air traffic controller that essentially allowed two aircrafts to collide in midair. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds so good. Like, and watch the trailer. Like, it actually sells it like, man, this could be a really good movie. And then unfortunately, once that happens, once the planes crash and like the intensity is done, the movie's dead, because at that point, it's literally just, in my opinion, because I see in the chat room, some people are like, Arnold, is great, but like, he just mopes around and the guy, the air traffic control guy, and I don't know who the actor is, he's actually really good. The guy that plays the air traffic controller, and I've never seen him in anything, so that's probably why. But yeah, it's just, I think Arnold is best relegated to action and comedy, and don't try to be dramatic, because there's a lot of people out there who can't separate what you did prior to what you're trying to do now. And it just has this kind of like conflicting thing in the head. And I think it takes away from the enjoyment experience at the end of the day.
Sure. Yeah. So, yeah. And I hear Linda Hamilton post T2 had the same, she ran into the same issue, that they would pass on her because they're like, no, you're Sarah Connor, that they've done something that is so ingrained in our memory that anything that they would try to do otherwise, basically, every movie producer probably is going, nah, I wouldn't buy it. He's too much the Terminator. He's too much, Dutch. He's too much, John Matrix, John Kimball, he's like, it's funny. It's like there's several movies that his name is John in. That cracks me up.
Yeah. It's sort of like you saying that it's sort of like Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson is Jack in a lot of movies. It's funny. Like, yeah, he's Jack in The Shining. He's Jack in Batman. He's Jack in a couple other ones. But it's weird. Like, you almost wonder. Well, it's sort of a different situation because it's not like he's Arnold in a lot of movies, but sort of the same situation of like, why are you the same named character in so many movies? But yeah, he is John in a lot of films, isn't he?
Yeah. And again, I think that probably just goes to the everyman idea that being a common name and that sort of thing. So Cyborgana says Clint Eastwood has allowed the gentle roles. Arnold should be too. I totally agree. And here's what it is. I know now why you cry. And that is something I can never do. That's the thing. He is amazing at going from this stone cold killer in the first Terminator film to somebody that we kind of cry out in John Connor's voice going, stay with us by the end of the second movie. Okay. And as much as I refuse to watch Terminator Genesis again, God bless him, he manages to get you to emote at just the right moment in that movie. I mean, I was sitting in the theater. I've only actually seen the movie one time all the way through. And right at the end there where he's like, goodbye, my Sarah, and I'm like, tear. And then this other half of my brain is looking, those memes where it's like me, and then it's like also me or other me, like this other half of me just kind of turned and looked and went, are you serious right now? You spent the whole 2 hours hating this movie. You're crying? I mean, the guy's just, he's fantastic at what he does. And at the same time, there is this a line I think that we all draw for him where we're like, I really can't see you do the average Joe thing, the everyday guy thing. I don't know that I would believe that because I know how amazing you are. It's almost like we refuse to let him aim low.
Yeah. Look at it that way, Cybergana. Like, it's just Arnold is too good at these things. So don't try to be us, Arnold. You're Arnold, for God's sake.
There it is.
Be Arnold.
Exactly.
Jesus Christmas. Yeah, no, I agree, man. I agree. And it's a love-hate relationship because I want to, have a movie where I'm just like, holy crap, Arnold disappeared. Arnold was not Arnold. He was that guy. And I just know that that's never going to happen. But, I still love the guy 100%. I'm never not going to love Arnold. And, something that I wanted to bring up with why I think maybe after 97, he just wasn't the same. And there's a lot of reasons why. Maybe the script sucked or whatever. But and it's partly due to what Cyborgana said. In 97, he had a couple things going on in his personal life that really affected him. So he had that open heart surgery, and that was also, I believe, the year that he had that affair with his maid. So, and I just know that because I read it, that part of the book in his autobiography. And, you got to imagine what stuff like that does to your head. So you're the biggest star in the world. You just had this insane crisis with your heart, and you also are keeping a gigantic secret from your significant other. So, I think after that, and some people, because I've actually come across people that are like, you actually like Arnold Schwarzenegger? Like, do you know what he did? And I'm like, okay, look, I can separate the person from the artist. I don't know Arnold personally, and he's apologized. He's, trying to rebuild the family foundation, from what I understand. But at the end, at the end of the day, I'm just a spectator. I don't live with that family, so I'm looking at it as Arnold the actor. And yes, I love him.
Yeah.
And as horrible of a thing as that was, it's not like he did anything. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't sexually abuse anybody. You know what I mean? It's like, if that were to drop on Arnold and I truly 100% believed what the allegations were, then I'd be like, okay, hold on. I got to reassess this fandom for him. But I can put aside, the whole affair thing. But to kind of pinpoint 97, that was a big year for him. And I think after that, maybe going forward, he just had a different mentality. There's a lot of reasons why I think after 97, Arnold just kind of went down in quality. But
well, it also might have had something to do with his shift away from acting and towards politics. I think that was probably the beginnings of when we're starting to see him really start to mull that idea over. And when you're thinking about a career change, it's just, when you're all in, and people can tell. And when you're divided on something, I think people can tell. And that also kind of goes towards his I want to say it was a contractual mandate. If he plays the Terminator in T3, Rise of the Machines, he's the hero. If I remember correctly, that had a political agenda with it. That he was running for office. He was going to do the California governorship, and he didn't want to go into that with people having a refreshed idea of Arnold the villain. So now he's got this refreshed Arnold the hero, Terminator the hero thing going into his campaign, and he can fall back on things like Governator, and that moniker is as his banner under which he's going to get things done. So I think that's what we're looking at, is some of that decline might have also been in addition to health issues, in addition to things that are going on in his family and his marriage. Then there's also this I'm considering the shift into the political arena, away from everything that I've been doing for the last 17, 18, 20 years.
Yeah. Who knows, man? Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but really at the end of the day, it's Arnold is Arnold, and Arnold is always going to be Arnold. Arnold is going to remain this icon, this larger than life thing of, the guy achieved everything that he wanted to achieve plus more. And, gave us some great films, and some of those films came off with sequels that he had nothing to do with, and I haven't checked out yet, but specifically Kindergarten Cop 2 and Jingle All the Way 2.
Right.
I wonder if they proposed it to him, like, hey, do you want to come back? Because I wouldn't be against it. I'd be like, I'd be okay with revisiting, Howard Langston from Jingle All the Way 2. But when you get Larry the Cable Guy, you lost me.
Maybe, yeah. Well, Predator 2 is loosely based on Predator Concrete Jungle, which was a Dark Horse comic. And in that story, it's essentially the same general story, Predator in a city. But the lead character was Dutch Schaefer's twin brother. And they actually, if I remember correctly, he actually goes looking for Dutch, and one of the, I think it was a four part thing, but the character goes to South America, or to Central America, to Valverde, in search of his brother's last known whereabouts, Dutch from the actual movie. But when they finally took it to film, they went a different route with that, obviously, and Danny Glover, he rocks it solid too. He's a good match against the Predator. So, good stuff there, but obviously a divergent timelines, as we like to say in Terminator fandom.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, what is like, if I were to ask you, I feel like I know the answer, but like, I'm just going to ask it anyway. What is the quintessential Arnold film?
Mm. Well, I mean, for me, it is the Terminator. I loved Conan. You know, that was like I said, my intro to him. But Terminator was the one that was like, I mean, I think it's because it gave me nightmares, actually. And then like the very next day, we were playing Terminator in the yard. You know, I mean, there was something that hit so many different levels internally that I was like, I can't get away from this. This is it. You know, this is the movie. Because even when you see him in Predator, you know, you kind of can't help but wonder. You're like, you know, if Dutch had actually been a Terminator in this movie, right? Sorry, maybe it's just me, but yeah, it always goes back to the Terminator for me.
Same here, same here. I know, but I mean, if you were to take a poll, I think it's obviously T2. That's like the quintessential Arnold film for a bunch of reasons. And when we do our T2 kind of retro episodes, sort of similar to the past episode that we did here with the first film, we'll talk more about that. But yeah, for me, it's definitely the Terminator. That's my quintessential Arnold film. But if I had to pick like underrated Arnold, underrated Arnold for me is Eraser. Eraser doesn't really get brought up that often, and you know, it's got some incredible set pieces. There is like beat after beat of like him falling out of that plane after the parachute. That's an incredible sequence. I love the idea too of that film. Like I really do, as far-fetched as it might be. You know, I do love that he plays this guy that, you know, takes characters that are in dire situations and gets rid of their, you know, past and then creates a new life for them. I really like that idea. And the opening to that film is really awesome with him just kind of like coming into the house, killing the guys, and then you know, setting the house on fire right as like the cops pull up. It's a really good opening, and I love Eraser, and I think that that's a movie that doesn't get brought up nearly as much as it should for some reason. I don't know, but I love Eraser, and I think that's like my number one underrated Arnold film. So like, what's your like a film that you think just doesn't nearly get the love that it should?
I'm gonna go with Commando.
Commando?
Yeah, yeah. I think that might have been the movie that probably cemented the Schwarzenegger Stallone rivalry. And then it's back and forth. It's back and forth after that. You know, Stallone with more Rambo sequels, Arnold with you know, with Predator, and then into some of the other things. There were so many movies that they did that came out around the same time. I think Demolition Man and Total Recall were about the same time. Judge Dredd was probably, I think, a good 4 or 5 years before The Sixth Day. But like I said, they really did seem to have the same kind of genre vibe to them. But I really think Commando, we're talking about the whole Arnold Everyman thing. That was a movie that actually kind of sold, because you know, it's the story of a dad who's going after his kidnapped daughter, right? You know, what dad wouldn't do that? You know, I mean, Liam Neeson's got like 3 movies about that, right? So it's obviously a good idea. But he's got this very, this was Arnold the action star before he was Arnold the action star, you know? And so I think the movie, you know, it's almost low budget True Lies in a sense. And so I don't know, there's something about that movie though. It's always been like, if Terminator's not available, if True Lies is not available, if Last Action Hero is not available, Commando's on it. Yeah, heck yeah. Again, that's another one of those things where it's just it kind of never gets old. He does make some of the some of the same references. Actually, okay, sorry. Commando was the year after the Terminator. That's right, because he does say I'll be back in that movie. Yes. That's right. I'll be back, Killian, or whatever it was, right? As he's getting out of the car into the airport. And
yeah.
But that movie, yeah, it was still that 80s era action hero, but they start him off in a very normal place, right? He's building a life. He's his own man, pulling himself up by his own bootstraps. He's got his kid, and then his past comes back to haunt him, So yeah, I think that was probably one of the honorable mention. Doesn't get the love that it deserves.
See, but I would argue that at least Commando, like if you go into if you go into like an entertainment store that sells pop culture shit, you'll definitely come across, because NECA has made, like Commando figures. Like you'll come across a John Matrix figure for sure. You're not going to come across I think his name's John Kruger. You're not going to come across a John Kruger eraser action figure. You know what I mean? So it's like Commando is maybe underrated in the grand scope of things, but I mean, it's still definitely a very popular film. I mean, a lot of people call it their favorite Arnold film. It's just, because it's that quintessential, so over the top, it is not even funny. I mean, I think in that movie, doesn't he pick up like a phone booth in the mall?
I want to say yes.
Like the guy Sully, that's his name, I think, the bad guy. He's in the phone booth trying to call the guys, and he picks the phone booth up and like throws it. I'm just like, what the hell am I watching? But it's great. It's like it's awesome shit. Like, and then what? Like, there's so many.
That's right. That's what you said. I lied.
Yes, and I love in that. Like, you can actually see the cord holding the guy. So I mean, Arnold is strong, but they definitely needed some person to off camera pull the guy up. But yeah, Commando is so over the top. I mean, look, when you got Arnold trying to be a dad and feeding a deer with his daughter, oh man, I mean, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief going on there.
All right, I give you that.
I love Commando though. Like seriously, like Commando is more and more I find myself thinking like I think I might prefer Commando over Predator. Like Predator is great. Commando though is like over the top action, whereas I think Predator tried to present it as like as serious as possible, like they tried to go for that direct in your face kind of stuff, whereas Commando they didn't give a fuck. They were just like, do whatever the hell you want, and somehow it's going to make sense because, well, look at the guy. It's Arnold.
Right.
But yeah, Commando is good stuff. And if they were to make a sequel to one Arnold film that hasn't already been made yet, I would be down for a Commando too.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Danny, this is your question. Wow, Arnold movies that haven't got a sequel yet. I would say I want to see Conan the King, or probably Conan the Conqueror is maybe what they would call it. Because the way Conan Destroyer, it ends with something about how he ascends to a throne, and then the last line, but that's another story. And I was always like, ooh, yes, another cool, and I was totally on board with that. And then of course the movie never came. But I want to say about 2 months ago, Arnold did tease that is maybe on the horizon for him is a third Conan movie.
Yeah, because that's been like, I feel like that's been in how's it called? development hell or something like that. Like it's been like this thing that's just he's tried to constantly have it, made, and for whatever reason it just doesn't take off. And I don't know why. Like I feel like there's a big following for it. Like because he just did that on social media. He did some kind of an event, and then they had like a special limited edition comic book made out of the Conan, right?
Yeah.
So like I feel like Conan is like still pretty big. I mean, I don't know. Like I have no idea why it hasn't been made. Like I'm actually going to look up why, not why, but what the hell he's got going on in production. Let's see.
We got a couple of votes. Woody and Oliver saying True Lies 2 or another Conan film. Marie, True Lies. You know what? Here's another thing. Speaking of Last Action Hero, I would honestly like to see, like, if they would just pick up somewhere along the way and be like Jack Slater 7. It's just the first Jack Slater movie that they ever do, but it's technically the 7th one in line or something like that. You know? And just be a complete nod to Last Action Hero, but it's almost in a way kind of a spin-off.
Yeah, Jack Slater, man. Jack Slater. That would be cool. Like, wouldn't that be cool to like that would be interesting. Get a Jack Slater movie, but it's not the way Last Action Hero was presented. It was like this is an official Jack Slater movie.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm down for that for a lot of reasons, cuz I remember a long time ago there was a store in I think Daytona Beach, cuz I'm in Florida, so I think it was in Daytona Beach, but they had a crap ton of like Last Action Hero merchandise. So like I remember seeing the replica toy car that he drove, and I wanted it, but I never bought it. But man, yeah, like I think now, like if they were to make a Jack Slater movie, like the merchandising on that would just be out of this world, because they would capitalize on the because they kind of missed the mark with that as well. Like the toys, sort of similar to T2, they didn't really look like, you know what I mean? Like we're better able to represent a movie in a toy form than we were in the 80s and 90s. So I feel like if Jack's like a Jack Slater movie were to come out today, holy crap, there would be a huge marketing push on like, toys and all this stuff. I'm down for it. Seriously. I mean, let's make it happen. That's right. They're doing triplets. That's his next one.
Yeah.
So
and Danny's back. Hey, Danny.
Yeah, Danny and Eddie Murphy, I think they want for that movie.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember hearing about that not too long ago.
Yeah. So we got obviously Dark Fate, that's in post-production. Triplets is in pre-production. Kung Fury 2. What is Arnold doing with like these weird like what? Because he has that thing that you said, the Journey to China. What the hell is he doing with these like martial arts movies? Get out of that. That is not your territory. And then of course the Legend of Conan. It says it's announced, so I don't know what that means. That shit could come off right away. I mean, I'm on IMDb, and after that whole Brad Fidel thing, we know it's not that reliable. Interesting. Yeah. Arnold, man. Arnold freaking Schwarzenegger is incredible. What do we got going on here? Yeah, Jack Slater. I don't even know what that number is.
No. I'm not going to attempt it. Let's see. Okay, so we got Triplets is in bad development hell. Alan from Argentina, what's up? Alan, how you doing?
Yeah, Alan, what's going on? I saw you say something about Edward Furlong. At some point, we're going to be doing like a kind of Edward Furlong thing, because I have a lot I can talk about personally, because I actually met the guy and I talked to him, and he's in really good shape. I've been sharing that photo that I had taken at the convention. I've been sharing that on certain groups, and it's been getting a lot of like, man, he looks horrible. And it's just like, no, he doesn't. Like if you think he looks bad in this photo, look up some other photos of Edward Furlong. The guy was in real bad shape at one point, and he looks a lot better now. And he was able to, have a full-on conversation with me, and he was really, fun and easy to talk to and down to earth and all that stuff. So we'll do a Edward Furlong episode coming up here at some point, but just wanted to make a mention of that to you, Alan.
That's absolutely awesome that you got some time with him. And I know for myself and my crew out here with the Infiltrator stuff, when we heard that he was in bad straits with the addictions and different things like that, man, we were really pulling for him. So it's awesome. One, that you got to talk to him, and two, that just he's making some awesome comebacks and awesome personal strides. So Eddie, if you're watching this, Edward Furlong, thank you for you. And it's awesome that you're doing what you're doing, man. Keep going.
Yeah, no, he was awesome. Like he really was. And, it was scary at first, and I've made a video, so you can check this out on the YouTube channel, but it was scary to go up to him because, he's John Connor at the end of the day. He might not have done a whole lot with his career, but to have your first movie be Terminator 2, that's incredible. So it was definitely scary to approach him, but once I approached him, it was so easy to just be like, hey, can I ask you for an interview, like a full-on interview, and as long as you want? He was like, yeah, go ahead. So to answer your question, Oliver, did Eddie say at any point if he's in Dark Fate when I spoke to him? The reason I'm not going to give you that answer is because I have a Patreon, and I'm not trying to plug anything, but I have a Patreon for Terminator 101, and I decided that interview was so awesome. It was so valuable. It was just a bunch of stuff checking off like little boxes. I was like, this has to be a Patreon thing. So I don't want to upset the people that are on Patreon who really went there for specifically that. So all I can say, Oliver, is go to the Patreon and check it out, and you'll get your answer over there. But he was awesome to talk to. That's all I'm going to say. He was awesome to talk to. And it was a video interview. It wasn't like how I have a lot of guests on the podcast, just kind of on the phone. This was like face-to-face kind of thing. So it was really cool. Plus you got to, because at some point we're going to be focusing on Michael Biehn. You have a lot of stuff you could talk about with Michael Biehn.
Yeah, some. I mean, I've met him twice, and we had some really good. It was probably only 2 5-minute conversations, maybe. I might, you know what it is. You know what it is when you're in the presence of somebody that you're like, I have admired you from forever ago for this movie and that, and you get there, and it's like time just seems to stretch to forever, So it may have only. I sit there and I think about it. I'm like, that may have only been 60 seconds. I don't know. But it seems like there was maybe a 5-minute conversation with him the first time. And the second time was kind of shorter, and I had my kids with me, and they got to sit in his lap and do a photo op with him and stuff like that. But yeah, it was really good meetings both times. I also got to meet Lance Henriksen and had some fun conversation with him. But I'll save that for those episodes when we get to those two phenomenal actors. I had a question. Do we want to transition into Dark Fate stuff yet, or?
Yeah, because I feel like, honestly, I feel like we've talked, as much as we can about Arnold, because at the end of the day, you and I love him, and everybody in the chat room loves him. So really, it's just going to be a praise fest. So we've praised him enough. We've been going for like an hour and some odd change here. So let's transition to Dark Fate.
Okay. All right. So
and everybody in the chat room as well, if you have any questions for either Gershom or I, send them and we can answer those now. So now it's like a Dark Fate / Q&A thing going on here.
Totally. Okay, so Dark Fate would be technically his 5th Terminator movie, 5 out of 6, right?
Yeah.
two of his entries we're ignoring is what the official word is from Tim Miller and James Cameron. How does everybody feel about that? That's my question for you, Eddie. That's my question for you. Actually, is Arnold is back yet again, and is this a shot at redemption, or is it more of a here we go again?
Is it a shot at redemption for Arnold?
I guess for the Terminator franchise, for Arnold as the Terminator, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I've said to like almost nauseum level, I'm really sorry, guys, but like there is a lot riding on this film, and if this film fails miserably, Terminator is done because you can only reboot this thing so many times, right? Genesis failed, and then they were like, all right, well, we got to scrap that. Salvation failed, so they were like, okay, we got to scrap that. Genesis came, it failed, they got to scrap that. So if Dark Fate fails, they're going to scrap the 2 and 3 that they want to do after that. And then at that point, what I said is it's going to be the way I see it, it's going to be a gap of like, I don't know, I'll just say 5 years. 5 years goes by, and then they're going to remake the Terminator. So really, at the end of the day, this is like the biggest thing that Terminator has had yet, because you can only fail and try to redeem yourself so many times before people are just totally over it. Because, dude, it's so sad. So many people in person, online, are done with Terminator. They're like, why is this thing still trying to remain? It's just, it had its heyday. Terminator is an 80s and 90s thing. Stop trying to bring it into, the present day. So many people are just not on board with Terminator. And so I'm really worried about that because, box office plays a big thing. So if they make a good quality product of a film, that's going to get people who are like, okay, I thought I gave up on Terminator to go to the theater and give it a chance. If it sucks, it's just going to prove them right. And then everybody who went to it, opening day, me included, and I'm going to be brutally honestly, seriously, when I go see this movie, and I do my review, whether it be on here, whether it be on the podcast, I'm going to be brutally honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and be like, yeah, it was good. If it sucks, I'm going to say it sucks, and it's going to break my heart because I've never been as involved with a Terminator film as I am now, because I've only been a super fan, the way I call myself, for like a couple of years. So this has been like, I'm like watching this thing. I might not do an episode on like everything that breaks about it, but like I'm following it closely. So a lot riding on it, man. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we're pretty like-minded about that. There are so many times that you can swing at the ball before you're out. There is this idea of, and I remember talking to a guy not probably a year ago, before Dark Fate was officially announced as going forward, and the guy kept saying, if they bring him back, what's the point of having Cyberdyne Systems Model 101 again? Aren't there other Terminator models out there? Doesn't it defeat the purpose of an Infiltrator if it's always the same face? And so there's that element. The hardest part that I've run into for myself is running into fans who still want to reference the now non-canon movies. Well, in Terminator 3, he, does this or he does that. And we're like, no, but we're not talking about that anymore, And so there's that separation. There's, again, like you're saying, so many times that you can fail at something before people walk out the door and you never get them back, So you're right. There is a colossal amount of future history that hasn't been written yet, we'll say, riding on the success of this film. Because if you get this, then we get a new Terminator 4 and a new Terminator 5. But if we don't, then yeah, I mean, it's probably gonna be like, you know what? There's 2 Terminator movies. Maybe half of you might be like, there's a TV show, and that's all. You know, it's done. It's over for another 10 years till somebody thinks that they've got the right mix again.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is that's something that we do have to remember is the fact that they are negating 3, 4, and 5. So this is supposed to be Terminator 3. And as long as they make a really solid Terminator 3, I'll be okay. If I obviously would want 4 and 5 to be good, but at the end of the day, I want a trilogy. Like I want, because so many people have favorite trilogies, right? So many people have the Star Wars trilogy, the Indiana Jones trilogy, the Toy Story trilogy. It's like I want a trilogy for myself, and I don't, because I don't have one. It's, as of right now, it's incomplete. So I want a trilogy, and then after that, because honestly, I don't think the grand scope of this idea, this is going to be the last film that has Arnold and Linda in it. It's going to be Terminator Dark Fate is the final Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator film and the final Linda Hamilton film, because it's supposed to pass the baton, and that makes sense. You don't want to get stuck in this rut of, all right, here we go again. It is a joke. It's a literal joke of because James Cameron said it in the Q&A. Arnold just expected to come back. That's not good. What the hell? Like, there should be, some, like, even from an actor's point of view, you should not expect to come back to a franchise. Me personally, like, I think, especially something like this, where there is a lot of room for them to go. So I think this will be the final Arnold and Linda performances. And I hope that they go all out, and I hope that they deliver. I was watching the chat room as it was going up, and I think I saw May 9th or 10th. People were saying that we're going to get a trailer.
Oh, God, I hope so.
I was surprised that it didn't attach itself to Endgame. I don't know how that stuff works out, but I would think that it would have. Because, I mean, that's a brilliant marketing push right there.
Oh, yeah, everybody's going to go see Endgame, sure.
Absolutely. And assuming you assemble, not to make a pun at Avengers assembling, but if you assemble an insane trailer, you're going to get a lot of people on board. I mean, that's what trailers do, unfortunately. I mean, there's a lot of bad trailers. There's a lot of good trailers for bad movies, but I don't know what it's going to attach itself to. If it attaches itself to anything, it could just premiere online, sort of the way that a lot of these trailers do, sort of like the Gemini Man trailer did. Did you catch that?
Yes.
Gemini Man. I am honestly weirdly attracted to it, and it has a couple of things to do with Terminator. One, it's from Skydance, and it also is co-written by one of the co-writers of Dark Fate. So,
Billy Ray, right?
Billy Ray, yes. Not to be confused with Billy Ray Cyrus, but yes. I am actually kind of looking forward to that film for some reason. I don't know. It's a movie that's been done a million times, but it's Will Smith.
Right. Absolutely.
So is there any questions going on over here? I haven't been paying attention to it. And we have this kind of Spanish stuff going on here. I'm not very good with Spanish, so I can't even tell you what they're talking about.
Okay. I'm honestly, I'm not either. Unfortunately, I did catch Marie saying, "What if Arnold plays the human, like the one that they have the Terminator after?" That would be so cool. I think.
Yeah, the human prototype. Yes, man, I am so on board for that. It's not even funny, and whether or not they go that route, I don't care as long as they do it right. But I think that would have been the best chance for success, because that would have flipped it again, and that's what Terminator's about, really. I mean, you look at T1 to T2, there's two great flips in that, with the T800 and with Sarah. So how awesome would it have been to have done that for this film? So you have Sarah becoming more, Terminator machine-like, and then you have Arnold, literally not even a Terminator. He's a human. That would be a great kind of juxtaposition. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
I recently watched T2 with a buddy of mine, and then we did a Patreon episode. And in that episode, he talked about, really how from T1 to T2, Sarah Connor is just cold and she's very machine-like. So he was like, how cool would it be if in the next film it's even worse? So, for example, in Dark Fate, she's doing something similar to what she did in T2 with Miles Dyson, and she's about to shoot him. But remember, in T2, she hesitated and she stopped herself. But in Dark Fate, she's gotten to the point where she don't give a shit. She just blows the guy's brains out. Something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that would be a cool juxtaposition to see Sarah Connor go from totally human to, in Dark Fate, she is stone cold Steve Austin. And then Arnold go from this stone cold killer in T1 to Dark Fate. He's human, and that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's an interesting thing that you mentioned the T2 thing about Sarah. The chapter, I believe, where she goes after Miles Dyson is titled "The Terminator."
No shit.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's awesome.
And it basically makes that point, if I remember correctly, of getting us to the understanding that she's buried all emotion about this whole thing, and she is convinced that this is the right action. She's following her prime directive, her programming, to stop this future from happening. And so it's interesting that you say that. The only thing, and I hate this theory, I hate this whole kill John Connor theory that everybody's putting out there, but I guess that would be the only thing that would push Sarah over that line. If I be completely candid, that would be it. It would either be the ultimate bitch slap, and it's just, I'm like, well, why do we even have another movie? Or it's, if they go through with it, then it's the thing that pushes her over the line. But the problem is, the stills that we've seen, she doesn't strike me as a completely cold. You know what I mean? She doesn't strike me as Sarah's impression of a Terminator, a completely heartless, unfeeling, carrying out some mechanical order. The still we've seen, even with the mirrored sunglasses, she still seems to project a very in touch humanity.
See, because I would respectfully disagree. I would say, based off of those two images that we have of her, which are essentially the same exact image, but maybe at a different angle, but she looks really, she has the glasses on, so we don't see her eyes, which is, really the defining feature of humans. That whole window to the soul thing. And it's not like she's, in those photos, she's like deadpan. She's like emotionless. She's just like that. She's not like there's actually more emotion on Mackenzie Davis. There's more emotion on Natalia. There's more emotion on Diego. There's more emotion on those human characters. So, I don't know. It is an interesting thing that my buddy's name is Jarrett. He brought that to my attention, and I didn't know about that chapter because I obviously haven't read the T2 novel, so I didn't know that chapter was named The Terminator. But when he brought that to my attention, I was like, "Yeah, man, you're definitely onto something." And I would like to see that kind of approach where because then that's just a beautiful arc. That's really what it's all about. So, because we all know. Why did Linda not come back in T3? She felt that the T2 arc was complete. She felt like it's done. It's, as far as I know, that's the end of Sarah. So the fact that she came back really has me going, man, they're going to be doing something interesting with this character. and they're probably going to kill her on screen. They're going to kill Sarah Connor on screen. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's going to happen. It's not going to be leukemia and that bullshit. It's going to be a real justice to her character. But that's how it's going to happen. And more than likely, Arnold's going to die too. But that doesn't mean anything really, because you can bring Arnold back as many times as you want. But I really do think that the creative choice is going to be to move on from the Arnold thing. So that's what I see happening. But yeah, Dark Fate, man, Dark Fate. I got to see this thing in action. I got to see, and I'm so jealous of that CinemaCon audience. They're, the fact that they got to see that shit.
Yeah.
Bugs the hell out of me.
It really does. It really does. So we've had some cool things happening in chat here. Apparently someone saw, I guess, some concept art for the Future War, and they're saying it looked good. So happy about that. Totally. Oliver Mercer, what if Arnold is old because when he went through time he malfunctioned, leaving that unit lost for his mission and living in the world? That's an interesting concept too.
Cyborgana, yes. Sarah Connor was the real Terminator. Yes, absolutely. She was the one that killed the Terminator. And I'm all for Sarah Connor and that kind of approach. But I'm sure you would agree that it would be awesome to see Linda kind of have that free reign of now being truly antagonistic. I don't know how they would write that. I don't know how they would go about doing that, but I think that to see her as antagonistic as possible would be a real interesting angle to go with this film.
Yeah, that would my concept with her. I think we're gonna finally see Sarah the Legend. She was basically the innocent and the victim in the first movie, right up until the end. She was a soldier in the second film, but she was perceived as crazy. And I think what we're going to see is she's basically the spearhead of the resistance in this movie. That the things that she says and does, people aren't going to look at her and be like, "You're nuts, lady." They're going to look at her and go, "You make more sense than everybody else I'm talking to. Holy shit, I'm going to get in line behind you. What? This is how the weapon works? Okay, good. Point me at what I'm supposed to shoot at." I think that's what we're going to get with her. Is we're actually going to see her in a leadership role as the one who really starts the beginning of the resistance.
Hell yeah, I'd be down for that too. And that kind of, because again, you have to kind of remember when these people are writing these movies, they have to really, because they are dealing with time travel and however they're going to introduce that again, they have to really kind of write this story so that it makes sense to, like, they have to go through all the possibilities and all the theories, the way, different fans have different interpretations of the story and how it all works. They have to really kind of, work all of that out. So I am happy to kind of bring up a subtopic here that they had as many writers as they did on this film. Right. Because it is so, it's so massive. It's so vast. It is confusing. So, you have to work all that out, and then you have to present something that makes sense to you, that makes sense to everybody in the chat room, that makes sense to me, but yet we can still have our belief. So I can still believe that everything is on 2 timelines. You can believe everything is on 1 timeline. Right. William Wisher can believe everything is on 7 timelines. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
well, I think the thing about it is, that whole timeline discussion is going to remain ambiguous until the end of the 5th movie, if we get it. I think that's going to be the deal. It's like, because I hear people all the time say, well, Terminator 2 broke the loop. Terminator 1, that the first Terminator was a closed loop. Terminator 2 broke it. I said, no, it doesn't. She went from being determined to being hopeful. And that's really about all you can definitively say. You'd have to go a little further out to be able to say, well, yeah, Cyberdyne folded. They didn't have any offsite backups. So absolutely everything that Miles Dyson was doing was flushed in the destruction of the building. And the movie itself ends very much the same as the original movie. It's still it's still something dark ahead. In the original film is a little further out. You look on the horizon, you're like, there's a storm coming in. This one, it's like, okay, it's a dark highway, but I'm optimistic. Sarah's going, I'm hopeful here. We could still pull out a win because we had a decisive victory just now. But then this new movie, the subtitle in particular is interesting to me because it doesn't say darker fate. Like, oh wow, we really fucked everything up. It says dark fate, which is what for me as a fan, for as long as I've been a fan, that's what I've been expecting since the end of the first movie. There's a storm coming in. I know. That storm that's been coming in for 2 decades, 3 decades now, is finally overhead. Let's have the rain. Let's get into this really, really dark brink of existence for humanity thing.
Absolutely, man. I all I know is that I am just getting more and more hyped for it. So it's coming up though. It's getting closer and closer. And whenever we get that trailer, man,
yeah,
that's really gonna spice things up in terms of people talking and where the speculation is going to take everything, for us. So absolutely.
Justin here, they almost broke the loop, but fortunately Cameron took out that god awful ending. You know what, Justin, I'm going to say I like that ending as Sarah's new nightmare. I would love to see that thing come back, basically be worked into the opener of Dark Fate as the thing she wakes up from in a cold sweat going, no, we didn't win, we didn't do it, or something to that effect, where it's like her mind is trying to make her believe that it's over and she just can't.
Yep. Man, I'll tell you, that ending is I'm glad they got rid of it. That's all I got to say. What else we got going on here?
Oliver with, how about Arnold being General Perry, the guy Kyle Reese went with in the front line? That would be interesting. Whoa, yeah, that actually that would be quite the twist, huh? Okay, all right, but you know what though, that would kind of present a continuity problem because he had to wait until the Terminator moved on Sarah in Tech Noir, right? I mean. Well, no, maybe not, because if you never saw the guy without a beard, yeah, okay, all right. You know what? I'm in. That would be an interesting twist.
Yeah, Woody says Dawn of Fate game had him in it. Dawn of Fate. Oh, okay, yeah. I never played that game.
Maybe I think that was a PS2 game.
Yeah. Justin, wouldn't Kyle have recognized him?
Yeah, maybe, but if it was Perry now in his 70s, versus a younger version of the man, and you've never seen him with combed hair, then I mean I could buy that. I could buy that. I could you're used to skulking around in the dark. You don't ever really get a clear look at anybody. And then the guy they send back is the idealized version of this guy, right? Yeah, that could work. That could work. It would definitely be an interesting twist. What do you think about the development of Gabriel Luna's character? They've told us it's basically an endoskeleton with T-1000 skin that can separate into into its own complete, basically its own T-1000, right? What do you think about that concept as opposed to the TX or the something bigger? I hear about other Terminator scripts where they had a what was it called? One of the Terminator, the John Connor Chronicle novels, I think, had some Terminator that was 7 or 8 feet tall. There's a T Infinity, I think, is what it was called in one of the Dark Horse comic books. If I remember right, that one had the ability to like time travel at will to wherever it wanted to. It had basically an onboard time displacement equipment.
So what do I think of like the Gabriel Luna character?
Yeah.
Well, again, it's like I got to see it, in motion. It's this thing of like I've heard so many different descriptions for that character that it's almost like until I see how it actually is working, it almost doesn't even matter what I think about it because they're probably not going to, do it the way I think that they're going to do it. So, you know what I mean? So like when that trailer drops and then we hopefully can see maybe just a quick split second of what is going on with Gabriel Luna's character, then I'll be like, okay, that's an interesting approach. Or because just on paper, the whole splitting thing, it's cool, but again, it's this dilemma of how do you get more advanced than T-1000? But before you start getting into like over the top, superhuman powers, like, you know what I mean? It's like almost the T-1000 is just, that's where you kind of cut off, I think. And then everything else after that is just, you're really going to start to get into the territory of things that like look cool on screen, but can you really believe that it's like an actual thing that could maybe possibly happen? That's one reason why I love the Terminator more than T2, is because it actually feels like, everything I'm seeing, is plausible. Like it actually feels plausible. Take out the time travel, feels plausible. T2, the liquid metal thing, it's hard. But it's hard to really accept. At the end of the day, it's like, man, that's really cool, but I got to suspend my disbelief. In T1, I don't have to suspend my disbelief much. So that's really, until I see a trailer and until I see that character in motion, I'm going to hold off on saying anything. But once that happens, you can definitely expect me to be like going off on either a positive or a negative. Hopefully it's positive.
Totally. Yeah, I think you're right. How do you do better than T-1000 is the big dilemma. Honestly, when they were like, hey, a new Terminator movie's coming out, T2, I was prepped for another T-800, and that was it. Or maybe 2 T-800s, I mean, the idea of upping the dosage on what the machines were sending back was completely off my radar. It didn't need it. The Terminator was already badass enough. Give me a different face in the crowd. Go with someone that's a little more Lance Henriksen. Go with somebody that's a little more average, a little more everyman. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh God, or send 2 of them or send 3 of them at one time. And so the fact that we have a Terminator that can beat anybody was completely like, whoa, okay, game changer. But then, like you're saying, how do you get better than that? If this was supposed to be, and this is the problem, I guess, that I run into is with the time travel in 2029 supposedly being the last move in the game, right? Just how many variant Terminator prototypes, et cetera, does Skynet have stepping onto the dais there to be sent back, to whatever year, right? I mean, was it just like he just lined up 100, Skynet lined up 100 of them and was like, go, hurry the fuck up, they're coming in through the door, go. And, it just sent every prototype that it had hanging in its cold storage vault. What exactly are we dealing with here when it comes to, okay, here comes another Terminator? Is it something surprising? Is it something we've never seen before? Is it something that we're familiar with, but they do it in a creative way? I've always wanted to see Terminators who work in tandem. The original T-800 was sent back into 1984, before the internet, before wireless technology was really a thing, right? And it's a lone unit in the entire world, right? It doesn't have an internet connection. It doesn't have all kinds of. That's one of the things that I did like about the TX. You get there, we're in a post-internet world, and it does some kind of dial-up thing and accesses a network. And I thought, hey, that's actually pretty smart. Obviously being from the future, it would have that technology on board, that capability. It gets here, it goes, oh, hey, that infrastructure is in place. I can use that now. And so I always thought that seeing Terminators work together, they've got their wireless thing. And that was something that we tried with the Infiltrator film too, was that we had multiple Terminators in the story. So we got to see them kind of in small ways, work as a unit, and work together. And it was something that was also, that I wanted to explore in the Skynet script that I wrote, that was a precursor to the Infiltrator stuff. What do T-800s do on the battlefield strategically? That we didn't get to see with the quick snippets in T2. We didn't get to see with lone Terminators in T1 and T2.
Yeah, man, that's all the that's all the stuff that James Cameron was just like, I'm not even going to touch on that. I'm just going to, here you go. You make of it what you will. And I think that's honestly the approach that Dark Fate should take, because the more ambiguous you are, obviously you have some stuff that you explain, but overall keeping it like ambiguous, and you're going to have a real good chance of pleasing as many people as possible. So I don't know, but what do you say because we've been going for like this is definitely the longest episode of No Fate But What We
Stream. Yeah, coming up, approaching 2.5 hours here. We've got a runtime that's almost as good as T2.
There you go. So Dave, oh my God, Durant Cinema. We're about to wrap, and now you come in. Oh dear Lord.
Fuck Durant Cinema.
Yeah, Dave. Well, welcome. It's good to have you here. There's 2.5 hours of content that you can definitely check out. But we are going to wrap this up just because you just got home. We're going to wrap this up because I feel like we've definitely, did our tribute to Arnold. And I know Durant just got here, but I know. But I got to get to bed. I'm old. So anyways,
you play that card. You do not get to play that card.
So anyways, guys, it has been seriously, it's been a pleasure having you guys in the chat room. It's been a pleasure having Gershom on the other end of the stream here, going back and forth with me. And again, if you want to stay up to date so that we, Ed, give me your clothes now. If you want to stay up to date so when the next episode, and we get if you were to ask us right now, what is the next episode going to be? We have no idea. We usually come up with it sometime before we, go live a couple days prior. So if you want to stay up to date with us, both Gershom and I, you can check out all the links down at the bottom. Social media links are all down there, and you can keep up to date with us. So hopefully, I don't know, because what are we? This is April 25th.
25th, yeah.
So I'm thinking we might have an episode before the supposed trailer drop, which is May 9th or 10th. So I think we might come back before then, but then definitely after that trailer drops, we'll definitely have an episode devoted, to that trailer. So look forward to that. That's going to be a fun one. I can already tell. And Yeah. So anyways, guys, Gershom, any last words before we hang up the phone here?
I just want to say to the chat room, you guys are fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for keeping the discussion moving, and throwing your thoughts out there and really mixing it up. It's neat to see. I love seeing so many different perspectives and seeing a lot of love and a lot of respect, for fellow fans and all that kind of stuff. So it's the kind of fanhood and fan base that I think really makes something like the Terminator thrive. Is when you can shoot the ideas out, and even if we disagree, we don't expect anybody else to come around to our side. We just enjoy the discussion, And so, thank you for the fellowship in that, and the camaraderie in our shared love of all things Terminator.
Exactly. Yeah. And Woody says, wait till the trailer. We might. But we also might come back and do maybe not as long of an episode as this one. Gershom and I are going to discuss that once we get off here. But definitely, like I said, the trailer is going to be a huge episode for No Fate But What We Streamed. So, yeah, guys, it's been an honor to talk to you. And I think Gershom has an official sign-off. What is it?
I do. I'm actually batting around in a couple of them, but tonight we will go with Make Your Fate.
Bam, there it is. Honestly, that was the one I seriously was hoping you were going to go for. So there you go, guys. So we're going to end it with that. We're going to end it. I'm going to he'll say his, I'll say mine, and then we're going to get out of here. So thank you guys so much. Durant, join us for the next one, because it would have been awesome to have you here for the chat, so you could have chimed in, because Dave in another lifetime is Arnold Schwarzenegger. So yeah, join us for the next one, man. But definitely catch the replay on this one, because we're all over the place with Arnold. But anyways, without further ado, until we talk to you guys next time,
make your fate.
And you guys know what you got to do. You got to keep on terminating. We'll catch you later, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.